Hello, everybody. My name is Zerduku Torch. Welcome back to an update. A Zap Entertainment Torch 13 update. What's the start? What really happened? Gun Kid has completely abandoned me, and I haven't really heard anything from any of my other friends, and honestly, I don't think I'll ever will. I'm pretty much on my own for the rest of my life, as it seems. I guess it's true what they say when you get older. As you get older, all your friends just come and go. Everybody goes their separate ways and never talk to each other again. But that leaves me with no editors, no reactors for my Zap Entertainment for my books. And without editors, I kind of can't do any more writing. I'm basically screwed. Um, I had to switch to Windows 11 dictation for using my tools for writing, quote unquote. And since I without editors, it's kind of useless because it's a lot worse with the dictation flaws than normal. Uh, my timers, I just noticed that my timer's going faster than my uh, OBS recording, so that's why I'm all distracted. Yeah, so my last book, as you guys know, was Music Girl, and he didn't take the message very well. But I do want to make a few things clear. The whole point of the book was to basically send a message saying that violence towards gays and lesbians is not the correct way to approach said issue. It's I'm sounding terrible. this I sounded like I don't know what I don't know. I kind of sounded like some sort of government thing. It's just cringe. But yeah, but regardless though, the whole point of the book was this is basically just pity those people because because it's basically just people with mental issues, and people with mental issues cannot be helped unless they want to be helped themselves. And that's what the book was basically saying, more or less, because violence only makes things worse. Usually. Well, most of the time, yes. 9 times out of 10, violence makes things worse instead of, like, solving an issue. I think the only time violence ever works is when you're dealing with terrorism, then you have no choice. But, but to, you know, use violence to help stop a terrorist attack or something like that. But Gun Kid kind of like overreacted to the book, and he kind of just yelled at me and then left all the gifts I was going to give to him for his birthday, and that really caused some serious emotional damage for me. And keep in mind, me and him were friends since high school, so for him to abandon me, it was very different than my other friends. Because my other friends I kind of sort of recently met, and as a result, that one actually kind of really hurt, like a lot. And I'm just gonna add a couple minutes to this because I have a lot to say. Um, there's been so many bad things happening. My writing, even previously, was becoming so tedious that it was really hurting me emotionally. Uh, YouTubing hasn't been too bad, Although the issue is that people are not really watching my YouTube videos at all. People just don't give a shit about the Torch 13 YouTube channel that I created. I'm sure people probably miss my Explosives Entertainment, but I had to change it because I got a new PC, and as a result, I lost the memory of all my video games, so I had to restart from scratch. I had actually no option. My memory just did not transfer. I tried everything that people were telling me, but as usual, because I'm so fucking retarded, it didn't go so well. And that's why I changed it to Torch 13. But people just didn't watch it or didn't even care. Hell, when I did my books, people didn't really send any comments. They sent a kudos, which is basically a like. But for me, I don't really much care for likes. I want to hear people's opinions when I do my writing because I want to improve because I wanted to improve, but no one cared. So, it's very clear to me that I'm just done with everything because I can't because it's very clear that I'm just not going to get anywheres. It's very clear that I don't have a purpose in life and never really did. And that was something I already knew. I was hoping that if I could build myself my own purpose, then I could probably find some kind of fulfillment in life. And that didn't happen. It was a shot in the dark. I knew that. I was hoping that there was actually some hope in the world. But it turns out there is no hope for me, and there never was. And it kind of sucks, but that's just the way it is. I I basically failed. I lost at this point. Um, well, so obviously I'm done with writing. I can't do writing anymore. It's simply impossible. I was thinking about moving on to making board games, but that's not possible for me neither. That's completely impossible. Because I have no idea how to make 3D models for like Tabletop Simulator, because that's completely impossible. I tried that and I looked into it, and it was just too much. My brain literally felt like it was going to explode. It was too much information, too much like having to learn things that would literally take me about maybe a good 50 more years for me to learn. I don't want to take 50 years of my life, at this point to, learn how to do something. That's just, it seems like a waste of time, to be honest. Because by then I probably die of old age. As it is, I'm getting old as it is, and I don't want to push things too far anymore because as it is, I'm getting tired just to get out of bed. um, I actually, now that I think about it, um, the infection story and Music Girl did actually have, a certain similarity because that was more of, well, what the thing with the idea with Music Girl was it was playing off a concept that could potentially uh, end all life as we know it. But it was just a concept idea. It wasn't necessarily that I knew it was true. It was more of something that could be, and it could be something bad. So I added it as kind of like a fiction concept to my story, and Gunkid brought it up, and I can't remember what he said now actually. Um, uh, but looking back at it, it doesn't really matter what is said because it was just a fiction concept that it was saying, oh no, this could potentially happen, so we got to be careful, basically. With the idea that if the whole world turned gay and lesbian, we could run into a situation where we could sterilize ourselves and not be able to make children. And if we turned to technology, not only that we'd be messing with things that we wouldn't understand, but we'd also be reliant on a technology that can potentially fail. And in that failed, would eventually fade away into nothingness. And with the infection story, it was more of like, what if there was a disease that came from outer space that infected our water supply, which is very scary if you think about it. Because, first of all, if it's something from another planet, from another world, or just basically from outer space, then we wouldn't be able to necessarily counter it very quickly. And if it was infecting our entire water supply on planet Earth, we would be in serious trouble. It's basically an apocalyptic ideas that basically inspired me to write stories about. Um, and with Music Girl, I took it several steps further because it was a superhero story, and I figured, well, if comic books are weird, I might as well make this story Music Girl weird. That's what I figured. And I had so I took like different ideas and I kind of just jumbled them together, and that's what made the second episode. And one of the ideas that I took was the idea of Valhaven. What if there was a interdimensional world where angels and gods exist, and they watched over us, and they were trying to teach us, but they were trying to not interfere with us, but trying to teach us things. And I figured, well, if the idea that worlds are becoming extinct because of a gay and lesbian mental disease that's getting out of control, what would they do? And I had this idea with, well, they would probably try to interfere, and they probably go all like frickin' Moses concept with the idea of the plagues of Egypt, and that's where that idea came from. And I figured that the idea was cool on paper, but in practice, though, it was a little cringe with the using lyrics from not only from the Prince of Egypt movie, but also using lyrics from a little bit of Naruto for the music stuff. But actually, the whole concept of Music Girl is that she's a superhero who sings subliminal messages in her lyrics through her rock and roll music. And that was what was her superhero concept when I created her, was that idea. And I felt like it was a cool idea on paper because if you think about it, listening to music really gives you a message. And I know that everybody listens to music at one point or another, and I'm pretty darn sure some people, especially adults, who notice that in the lyrics of certain songs, especially, well, there's a lot of like country music that sings some pretty subliminal stuff. Um, I think there was one country song that I listened to, and I usually am not really into country, is called "Working on It," where it's basically a supplemental message about people not paying their employees very well. Which, now that I think about it, goes all the way back to the infection story, because I was also leaning into the making like little, not really leaning into the idea, but like having sort of like a cameo concept idea of like, there's a lot of businesses that are shutting down, and it's because the art of comedy is not paying people very well, and our inflation is getting out of control. uh, was the idea that I didn't actually write a solution for that, and that's because for me, I feel like the solution is something that kind of can't be done. The only way to counter that particular problem is to get rid of the concept of economic concept out of it. Basically, we got to stop using money as a way to connect our society, because we did actually add that. I know probably millions of years ago at some point. I don't know when we just started to have like this concept of we using money as a way of purchasing things. And honestly, I don't really like that idea because money is holding us back. We humans have created something completely unnatural, but with responsibility, kind of like with Spider-Man, great power comes great responsibility. We could potentially become a benevolent species that helps nature with our technology, with the idea that we could observe technology but only interfere if we feel like it's absolutely necessary, which is kind of like the idea from Star Trek. And I feel like that's a really great potential thing, but I don't think we'll ever do that because it seems like instead of us becoming more benevolent, we're becoming more malevolent, which is the opposite. It's like humans are becoming more and more evil because we're becoming very, very, very prideful, and that's why that's another thing I kept putting in my stories that we're becoming way too prideful. It's not so much as being gay and lesbian; it's so much as becoming completely prideful to the point where we're not just arrogant, we are just taking things and not caring about what happens to other people. We're not caring about the consequences of what happens to other people. Matter of fact, human beings seem to be becoming more and more self centered. And I felt like it was over my responsibility as a writer that I should send kind of like a subliminal message to my writing. But here's the thing about subliminal messages that I feel like Gunna Kid overreacted about. Just because you don't like a subliminal message does not mean you need to get angry at it and pretend it doesn't exist. Well, you, you don't have to use it as a reason to hurt other people's feelings. We'll put it that way. And that's what I kind of feel like what he did. He used it as a way of hurting my feelings. Um, and the thing is, I actually kind of understand where he's coming from because I had a similar situation with Death Note. Um, I didn't get this actual message, but what they were trying to say with their subliminal message, if people die, they don't come back, is what they were trying to go with, which is something I kind of learned from accidental research on Death Note. But that's not what I got. Instead, I got this feeling of saying that terrorism and rapism and things are okay because we have like these rules that are broken, and we should be okay with the broken rules. And I do not like that concept. And that's what made me very angry and almost killed anime for me. But eventually, I did go back to watching anime. I didn't go back to watching Death Note, but at the end of the day, it's just entertainment. You can either, and with entertainment, you can either just accept it for what it is, or you can just ignore it, which is the two right reasons. And Gunki didn't do either one of those. Instead, he used it as a kind of like, I don't want to really say weapon, but it almost seems that way, as a weapon, as an excuse to be angry at by other people. And that's not the way to go about it because artists will always try to put subliminal messages because I feel like that's their right to do because it's a well, it's an American thing where we have the idea of like what is it where we're allowed to say whatever we want. That's a timer. And I think that is important to to be able to say what we want to say, and that's important for artwork as always. That's why I enjoy more artsy stuff versus anything that's just entertainment. Matter of fact, there's another thing I watched. I think it was Transformers One, and there's a line that Optimus says where you should only stand up for yourself, kind of deal, which yet again is a prideful self-empowerment thing. And if you stop and think about it, that's how Megatron became, Megatron, because he basically got corrupted by his own pride. And when I heard that line, I'm just thinking to myself, well, it's very clear that the writers don't know what they're talking about. But the thing is, it's Transformers. You're not supposed to take it seriously, and it's not supposed to be all that artsy. On the other hand, when musical, it is supposed to be artsy because it's a character created with the idea of music lyrics, and you can't tell me that's not a perfect tool for sending subliminal messages to a wide audience in some way or another. Although my writing was more geared to the elderly, I wasn't really gearing towards children at all. I really don't really much. I don't like pandering to children, so I decided why not. And besides, the only people that read, as far as I know, is either the elderly and some of the nerd community. Well, some of the nerd community does actually read, but not probably not as much. I am Brandon here for over 20 minutes, but I feel like it's necessary considering that this may or may not be my last video. The thing is, I'm not too sure if I'm going to go back to YouTubing. I know I'm definitely not going to be able to get back to writing, which sucks because I have like this thing where I have a great imagination, and if I don't do something about it, it haunts me forever. It haunts me until I do something about it. And honestly, I can't do anything about it. I have no tools. I have no editors. My dictation program is basically crap. I can't make board games because it's too complicated at this time. Uh, well, not only is it too complicated, I have no place to actually send my work. I mean, I could with board games, I do have plenty of poster board paper, but the thing is, I have no place to send those poster board papers that I turn into, boards or whatever with, like drawing and whatnot. So literally, there's nothing I can do. I could still go back to YouTubing anytime because I have OBS and it works fine. And using Windows dictation for it is not a big issue because I'm just, writing titles. I'm not actually making anything, too complicated most of the time. But at the same time, though, now that I think about it, it would be complicated to use Windows dictation because if it messes up, I won't know it until someone tells me, which they won't. uh, I would love to have answers to my whole lost situation of not being able to go anywhere with my imagination. I do kind of wish I could go somewhere with my story ideas. And my board gaming ideas are actually pretty darn good. I just don't know where to go. There is no place for me to go. I'm lost. And I will always be lost until somebody helps. I can't do things by myself. I'm only a human being. That's another thing that pisses me off is with this whole self-empowerment thing just going around the world and creating more and more pride is that people expect people with issues like mine to just solve things by themselves. Doesn't work like that. It does not work like that at all. That makes me very mad because people do not understand that. It doesn't work that way. You can't Answers don't grow on trees. People need to help with answers. Either giving it to them completely or giving them a clue. That's that's how people learn. And I feel like I think what happened was at some point during the whole 90s rebellion against authority thing, people have now become not interested in learning things. Looking back, there is a lot of memes about adults going back to school, and I think I kind of understand that right now because I would want to go back to school, quote unquote, because I would focus on trying to learn something new in order to help me with my art and try to figure out where I should go. But the problem with that is that that costs way too much money to do, and that's why I'm not going to do that. I have just enough money just to live in my apartment building. That's all I got. I don't really have I'm not rich. and I never was. And interestingly enough, I never did my YouTube channel or my books for the sake of money. I did it for the sake of sending messages to people. Well, originally I did it for a purpose, looking for a purpose, and then it evolved into sending messages to people as, as a writer. Yet again, it didn't work out. It's not working for me, and I wish I could find a way out, or not really a way out, but looking for a destination, because right now my brain emotionally is running around in random directions. And it's all because of Gun Kid's decision. It really hurt me so much where I become lost. I don't know where to go. I don't know what I'm supposed to do anymore. I just have no purpose in life. I just feel so empty, and I don't know what to do anymore. And I wish I had solutions. I don't I mean, it would be nice if people did actually start caring, but that's not going to be enough anymore. It's like the damage is so deep that I really need solutions. That's the only way to get me on track of, feeling like life is good. But right now, life is empty. Life is pointless. I kind of feel like it would be better for me to die. But the thing is, I can't deal with pain. So, yet again, I feel like I'm trapped in a world where I just don't belong. So, as a result, I just feel so out of place, so empty, and so lost that the emotional damage is literally just hollowing me out. And it has hollowed me out to the point where there is nothing left, but it continuously tries to hollow me out. I feel like eventually in time I'm just going to be a robot. And I actually asked a question on my private Facebook, how long uh, can you be hollowed out with the fear of pain, and then at some point not no longer be afraid of pain anymore because you're so hollowed out that you just don't care anymore. How long does that take for a man to the point where that pain doesn't matter anymore? I just that's pretty much where it's going for me. Is I'm being perpetually pulled to be part of the ever growing suicide rate of of men, and I've now become one of those lonely men out there. Now, I may have not have gotten it through the same reasons. A lot of them got there because they lost their jobs because of you know, people from other countries are taking their jobs. But for me, it's because there isn't enough straight women out there, for one. And number two, I have lost my purpose because I no longer have the tools to keep going. And as a result, I have now become lost, lonely, and just like severe pain, to the point where I just feel like I'm being hollowed out by my own mental suffering. I feel like I ran enough as it is. As it is, we're already in 28 minutes. So, please like and subscribe, and this might be goodbye forever. I hope you guys enjoyed all my previous videos, and I hope that somewhere people do care. And this is Zurjuku Torch signing out.